Thank you all for tuning in. This is part 2 of my blog entitled My Story. This particular section is called Russian Roulette. When I think about Russian Roulette, I think about loading the bullets into the gun and spinning the little, gun thing. Very technical term. As you can see, I know a lot about guns. But when I think of the term Russian Roulette, I think about the period of life between the ages of 10 and 18 in my life. A lot happened. It was a very dark time, very necessary for my journey, but still a very dark time. It was the suicide attempt. It was the bullying. It was the acting out. It was the being expelled from school for things that were ridiculous. It was very I don't want to say the word tragic because I'm not really a drama queen, but it was very much one of the darkest times in my life, I have to admit. So it started out good. I mean, when I was in the 4th grade, like I said, I kind of went from acting out in a good way to acting out in a bad way. In the 3rd grade, I won the spelling bee championship, and that was kind of my acting out in a good way, kind of showing off how smart I was, and even the kids gave me a nickname at the time. I was called the Walking Dictionary because I knew how to spell everything and how to put it grammatically into a sentence. And I remember in the 4th grade, when I didn't even make it into the finals of that spelling bee, it took my ego and just squished it like a bug. And so during this time, I was kind of growing into invisibility in my mind, and I was growing into my insecurity. And during this time, I sort of got this lame brain idea that bad attention is better than no attention at all. And so I remember in the 5th grade, whenever our teacher's name was Mr. Rocket, and whenever we did something wrong, we had to copy an entire dictionary page. And I remember him finally just like pulling what little hair he had out. And he called my mom in for a conference, and I remember him telling my mom, "I think your son holds the record for the most dictionary pages. This is ridiculous. We have to do something." I just like swelled with pride. I was like, I'm a badass. But it sort of began the trend of acting out for attention because it just was such a rush, and it was so awkward and such a freak. And, it was, I don't know what fueled the concept that, it's like the Britney song, "All eyes on me in the center of the ring, just like a circus." And that's kind of what I was, but I was like the sideshow. I was a hot mess. But the 4th grade is when I finally realized that I dressed different. I didn't notice it so much when I was younger. Again, I have such a great sense of oblivion. I catch on to everything really late. They say he who laughs last laughs hardest. Well, that's because he who laughs last is probably Michael. But anyway, so around about the 4th grade, I realized finally that I didn't dress like everybody else. Light bulb comes on. I remember one time one of the most popular kids in school had a shirt, and for some strange reason, we ended up having the same shirt, like the same style of shirt. And I remember wearing it to school, and I remember him saying, "Ugh, I have that shirt. Now I have to burn it." And like little things like that began to be inserted into my psyche, and something about insecurity and something about being so just socially retarded, which is what I was, is that you don't pay attention to the good things that people are putting out there. You pay attention to the bad things. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized you really have to train yourself. But anyway, okay, so enough about that. That's kind of what started happening, and that laid the foundation for high school. And in high school, like, I kicked acting out into high gear, because I went from a middle school, grades 4 through 6, where there was probably, what, 200 people in that school, to high school, which is grades 7 through 12. And we're talking, you know, 2, 3, 4 times that amount. Sorry for my computer, I don't know what it just did. But, you know, high school, 2, 3, 4 times that number. And you're taking that insecurity and that aloneness, and you're making it that much more magnified. Another thing that I learned as I've gotten older is there's something very front and center about being young. Everybody has that need, that rush to be the center of attention. I don't have that so much anymore as I did when I was, you know, in my teens and early 20s. So craving the attention, not getting it necessarily in a positive way from either at home or at school, it was now time to start getting it in a bad way. And I was such a hick growing up. I remember growing up, my favorite singer was Shania Twain. And it started out with the album The Woman in Me. I was obsessed with it. And my mom finally got it for me. It was on cassette tape at that time. I'm totally dating myself. Mid-90s, cassette tapes were still popular. So I had my Walkman in, and I was like singing and dancing to Shania Twain. Well, there was the gasoline. All somebody had to do was light a match. And they did. They pointed out what an absolute freak I was. For living in the middle of nowhere, nobody listened to country music back then, and those who did didn't admit it. So they began to, you know, basically point me out, you know, and rather than, in my mind, going, you know what, you're already outcast enough. You don't need to push yourself more in that direction. Instead of doing that, I gravitated towards it, and it was so much, it became so awful. I can't sing to save my life. I would turn American Idol into Survivor. People would call in to vote me off the island. So, needless to say, it didn't start a nice trend. I started, like, I wouldn't even call it dancing. I started just acting like a total idiot for attention, and it got the attention of the entire school, which now, looking back, I would never do that now. Like, that's so ridiculous. We're at a club, I'm at the bar getting drunk, I'm not on the dance floor. But, you know, I was just a kid. So that was a big part of my acting out. Also, puberty had hit, which was my biggest enemy. I think of puberty hitting and hormones coming in sort of like a woman getting her monthly period. And the fact that it was fucking annoying, and it would last and last and last. And I look at now, thanks to Facebook, I look now at all of the people that I was attracted to, you know, back in high school and growing up and that shit, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, I had no taste. So, and I don't mean that offensive. If you're watching this video and you knew that I was like totally gay for you, I'm not now. But don't be offended by it. I was just a kid. But it was such a socially awkward time in my life, and I do remember one time. I think before I get to that, I want to say that I learned a big lesson by looking back at my high school years. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. A lot of things that happened to me were things that I had coming to me, but then again, a lot of what happened to me was just bullshit. And it is so tempting to name names. But, you know, this isn't high school, and I'm really not a dramatic person, and, you know, it has been in my best interest to just forgive and forget and leave it all behind me. But I do remember the suicide attempt. You know, a lot of what I did and a lot of the ridiculing that was happening to me kind of made me want to end my life. And I remember there were times in the locker room when I would come in and people would just, like, immediately leave, or feel so uncomfortable and so embarrassed to be in there at the same time as me. It was really tough, and I'm actually going to end right here, and I'm going to go ahead and continue this in the third part. So and I'll get more into like the darker stuff. But that's kind of what's going on, and you can see where this is going. It's going downhill pretty quick. You ain't seen nothing yet.